this space of time to align or take a piece of philosophy into our practice. And what I'll share with you this morning is, many of you have been with me before, and we close our practice with a prayer where we, bring our hands into prayer, and we bring the thumbs to the forehead, thumbs to the lips, and thumbs to the heart. Because in my humble understanding of Buddhism and yoga, which are really very heavily interwoven in many ways, when you look at their history and the trajectory of the evolution of those two spiritual practices, the attempt to continue to evolve, they grew alongside one another and developed out of one another and into one another. There's a lot of interweaving. So in yoga, there's an eightfold path. This is what's known as Ashtanga or Ashtanga. And equally in Buddhism is known as the eightfold path. And so they are a reflection of one another. And one of the key things that yoga and Buddhism share is that there is a very strong, it's beyond a belief. It's more of practical application of practices in the life to tune the heart to a certain tone that allows for peace, steadiness, and ease. And these practices, things like Lojong and Tonglen, and they're real meditations and actionable steps that we can take in our behavior. To exactly like learning how to play the piano, you have to do it every day in order to practice. And after 10,000 hours of practicing the stuff that you're not good at, you might actually become masterful, because the stuff that you're good at already. And the stuff that you're not great at, that's where that 10,000 hour rule comes in, practicing the things that you're less capable of. And interestingly enough, one of the key pieces in yoga and Buddhism is the idea of speech. So speech is such a critical piece to toning the heart and turning our behavior toward peace, steadiness, loving kindness, compassion. I was recently privy to a text exchange between two young women in their 20s. One of them is about to get married, and the other is ostensibly the maid of honor. And she wrote this really long text, which, for starters, at my age, I would be like, the content of the text should have been a conversation, not a text at all. However, in your 20s, apparently, this is where you data dump. Yeah, you data dump all of what your thought process is. And the data dump that came through in this text was essentially that there's a lot of envy in the maid of honor's being. Like, she is seeing her bestie getting married and getting everything that she wants in her life. And in this text, the other young woman expresses envy, jealousy, frustration, upset, like, you have the life I want and I'm sick of having it thrown in my face, kind of thing. And so there was obviously a lot of emotion rising around this, and sort of a question of, how do I handle this? And in that moment of being given a little bit of input, a space to give input, my speech was critical. And so I will share with you what I would call the 4 gates. So a lot of people talk about the 3 gates of speech. Is it true? Is it timely? Is it necessary? And is it kind? Are the 4 that I offer to other people when they think about what's going to come out of your mouth. So is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And is it timely? So the key piece here is this: both young women are in pain. Let's not ignore that the young woman that's feeling envy and jealousy, she's firmly rooted in a poverty mentality. You have what I want and I can't get it because you already have it. Poverty mentality. The reality is she could cultivate a life very similar to her bestie. And in a certain way, there's a certain karmic understanding that if you can see it in the world, then you can also have it. But that's a shift, that's a whole conversation in itself. The radical awareness that if you can see it in the world means that you too can have it. But that's a a maturation of your own spiritual understanding. And yet, right now she's in pain, she's firmly rooted in, you have it, that means I can't. Because that's the end of it. Like, there's not enough to go around, right? Which is a lie. So that's the first piece. The second piece is that the young woman who's going to get married now has a choice. Am I going to have this person who's openly unhappy for me standing next to me at this critical juncture? I would say that's a bad fucking idea, personally. However, in this moment, the key learning is that for us in our conversation today about how do we behave in the world and what's our practice going to give to us today, what are we going to cultivate in this practice, is the awareness that, is it true? For the young woman that was expressing, yes, it is. For her, it's true right now. Is it kind? Meh, not necessarily kind. So right there, that would have shut it down. You're not going to offer it. Is it necessary? Is it necessary for her to let that out? Absolutely. This is a key piece for us. Don't suppress your feeling. And is it timely? Wrong fucking time altogether. So 2 out of 4 gates got shut down. She has to barrel through them to share it. And here's again for us, when we think about what our speech can do. She's hurt someone that loves her by virtue of speech. She's really cut her to the heart. And in the storytelling around this is the concept for us, we can start to say, I'm in discomfort. So the young woman that's expressing, she's in a lot of discomfort. How does she do it so that she doesn't add to the pain in the world? How does she express, share, offer, this is my truth right now? Because this is really important for us. We can basically have verbal diarrhea. There's a whole side of our experience that says, don't suppress your emotion as yogis. It's true. Don't suppress it. Don't shove it down. But be discerning. This is discernment. Where do you offer that piece of truth, and to whom? And in what condition? So the 4 gates, when she's applying it from the maid of honor to the soon-to-be bride, wrong person. The 2 out of 4 gates got shut down. So that's the wrong person. Could she turn to another friend of hers and say, like, I got to talk about this. This is eating me up. I'm in this space. So it's a critical piece of our work. So when we close our practice today, this idea of like, may my thoughts, may my speech, may my actions in the world align with peace, with kindness and compassion. The answer is, in order to do that, we have to sit with discomfort sometimes. So here's this maid of honor and here's this bride. Could the maid of honor, if she were in a deeper spiritual practice, such as what we're about to do, cultivate a capacity for being in discomfort and standing in it with peace? Don't push it, don't pull it. Could she have figured out that it's true for her, but she doesn't have to data dump it onto this particular person? The answer is yes. And could she find a way to joy for the soon-to-be bride without having, and she could still hold that discomfort and concurrently hold joy? Yes. Could she be present, which is what the bride-to-be wants most from her? I love you and I want you to be a part of my life at this crucial time. Yes. If she were practicing being able to stand inside the discomfort, hold herself steady, not lie about that, but not have to off-gas it. That's maturation. And so our practice today, and I tell you this story, I take up our time so that you can see where we are practicing, why you practice this way. Not so that you can just get a nice ass. It'll be a side effect. But